How many more times do guns have to be used in self-defense before the liberals start to come around and think to themselves, gee, maybe guns aren't so scary and horrible after all? Well, folks, some sad news out of Maryland today. This one from WTOP.com. A 17-year-old shooter has died, and 2 other students were wounded in a shooting at Great Mills High School in St. Mary's County, Maryland, this morning. St. Mary's County Sheriff Tim Cameron said Tuesday that Austin Rollins, a student at the school, fired a Glock semi-automatic handgun. Gee, it's not an AR-15 this time. What are you going to do now, mainstream media? What's your narrative going to be now, Chuck Schumer? Oh, ban handguns. Is that it? Fired a Glock semi-automatic handgun at a girl in a hallway at about 7:45 a.m. at the beginning of the school day. The girl and another student were wounded. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have to look into this, but I'm 99% positive that this school was a gun-free zone. In Maryland, are you kidding me? A high school in Maryland? Of course it's a gun-free zone. Now, liberals, I want you to ask yourselves this before I get into the rest of the story here. I want you to ask yourselves this. How is it possible that a 17-year-old could have brought a Glock into a gun-free zone? It's a gun-free zone. What happened? What's he doing taking a gun into a gun-free zone? Maybe he just missed the sign, that was outside of the school that read gun-free zone. I'm sure if he just stopped and read the sign, he would have said, oh, I got a Glock on me, I can't bring this into the school. I'll just go home and leave it home and then come back. Yeah, I'm sure that's how that would have turned out. It's not known. I'm sorry, where was I here? The school resource officer. Now listen to this. The school resource officer, who was alerted to the shooting by students and staff, then engaged the shooter in about a minute, Cameron said. The officer and Rollins each fired a shot almost simultaneously, and he was pronounced dead at about 10:40 a.m. Now, let me just stop there and say that it really is unfortunate that this 17-year-old's life ended this morning. And our prayers do go out to his family and his friends. I don't know what he was doing bringing a Glock into a school. I don't know what he was doing with it out, but that's besides the point. He's dead. It's an absolute shame. It's a tragedy. It never should have happened. And again, our prayers, our sympathy goes out to his family and to his friends. But ladies and gentlemen, let me use this story to make a point. A very, very real point. Something that, frankly, the liberals, I'm convinced at this point, are never going to accept. Guns are not the problem. Here, in this case, guns actually were the solution. A gun was the solution. This resource officer, basically a school cop, came along and stopped this guy with his own gun. So this flies in the face of the liberal narrative that guns are bad, that guns don't belong in schools, that guns should never be allowed in the classroom, that teachers shouldn't be armed, and so on and so forth. It's a false narrative, and in many cases, guns are used for good. You see, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, ladies and gentlemen. What us conservatives have to do is work. And many of them have been doing this for quite some time now, and I applaud them for doing this. But we have to shift the narrative away from guns are bad, guns kill people, no guns allowed, to, you know what, guns are a good tool that can be used to save lives. Not to end lives, but to save innocent life. That needs to be the narrative. This is what we need to convince our friends on the left of. That guns can be good. Now, they never seem to acknowledge that. They'll never acknowledge that. Their narrative, as I said, is always guns are bad, guns kill people, go after the guns. And I find this funny, ladies and gentlemen, because I don't even think they realize it, but they're not philosophically consistent. They're not. You'll notice that, for example, whenever there's, the local news reports on a car accident. Some drunk driver, is flying down the highway at 110 miles per hour and kills an innocent person. You'll notice that the left, they never blame the cars. It's always the drunk driver who's to blame, as it should be. You'll notice when people die of obesity, the liberals never come out and say, we need fork control, we need spoon control. No, sadly, it's the person who ate and ate and ate. It's their fault for getting obese, for doing that to their body. We blame the person. But for some reason, when it comes to guns, when some lunatic picks up a gun and kills innocent people, the person, the individual, is not blamed. The tool is blamed. Which doesn't make any sense to me. You don't blame a fork for making someone fat. You don't blame a car for hitting another innocent person on the highway. You blame the person. So in this case, too, you blame the person, not the gun. It's just common sense. I know the liberals are always talking about common sense. Common sense. Common sense gun control. We need common sense gun reform. This is common sense. Common sense says you blame the individual with the gun, not the gun itself. Guns are good. Guns are an effective tool to save innocent life. That's the way it is. That's the way it is. And the sooner our friends on the left accept that basic fact, accept this common sense, because this is real common sense, the sooner they accept this, the better.